Welcome to the den, the deepest den.
And now we get into the issue with the inevitable double cross.
Yes. You know what? You're right. We get right in here to issue 9, titled Warzone. But first, it begins with Guy Gardner, where he gets one of the Green Lantern rings, and then the explosion occurs, killing all but one of the Guardians. And then now, Guy Gardner is sent off on a mission of vengeance. Now then cut to the Brainiac ship, to where we then see all these villains that are teamed up, ready to execute their plan. Starfire gets summoned to Tamarand. Then we also see how the Earths are accepting of like how these like warp zones are, where there's the merging that's occurring. They kind of have those like sanctioned off kind of, and referring to them literally as warp zones and like accepting them part of society. I found that whole bit interesting. Just seeing them all just accepting and already like sort of like integrated into it as well. And then there's this plague of darkness that then takes over 3 of the Earths. And then while on Earth 1, there's all these leaders that's gathered to hear what Alexander Luthor, Lila, and Pariah is to like. They're like sharing out what telling them what's going on, and then Pariah then disappears as whenever there's a big threat, he disappears. So he disappears, and an image of Brainiac is then shown as he threatens the leaders, telling that he's in control of 3 of the Earths 5, X, and S. The hologram of Luthor then appears as he demands all the nations to surrender, or those 3 Earths will be destroyed. Heroes then suit up to leave, but then there's this problem where there's like these barriers between the Earths, so they can't get to the other Earths. And then Jay Garrick then recruits Wally West to then run on the cosmic treadmill to get through the barrier. And now on all 3 Earths, the villains have taken control, and there's like this huge war zone where just the heroes and the villains are just fighting each other, and it's just the side is just being completely exhausted, just being this constant war at each other. Like I said, like this issue is literally called War Zone. It's literally a massive war between all the heroes and villains on these different Earths. And then we then go back to the Brainiac ship, to where we then see Brainiac get ambushed and destroyed by Simon, who then threatens to kill Lex Luthor next, and that's where it ends. But yeah, so as far as this issue goes, there's a bit of stuff that's like at the beginning that sets up like other bits of like the tie-ins and Crisis, but then you get into the real meat of it, of where the Anti-Monitor is kind of off doing his own stuff. He's trying to figure out what to do next. He's in his moment of like, okay, well, what's next for him, since his canon got destroyed because of the ultimate sacrifice. So then Brainiac being the ultimate mastermind, it's great. After that whole setup that's been going on for so long, you finally see that all come in, and I really just appreciated and like seeing all that stuff.
This was a great
Brainiac. He's great.
This was a great interlude episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we got that shattering, last issue with the Flash dying, and the Anti-Monitor not defeated, but his plans put to a halt, at least for a moment. And then we get to see, well, it's like, we really haven't seen how are the population of Earth coping with what's happening, this unprecedented crazy shit, you know what I mean? And the villains and heroes are only going to be together for so long, right? And the villains, seeing a moment that the Anti-Monitor maybe may not be his threat anymore, take their shot, right? And and one of the greatest lines in comic books here was the best when they're all together, and you know how they can't get along, right? They're villains, right?
Oh
And
yes.
Brainiac shuts it all down. You get the Earth 2 Lex Luthor saying,
Yes.
what about me? It reminded me of the fucking Constructicons and Transformers. We formed Devastator. We should rule. He was like, I'm Earth 2. I'm he's a second rate. I'm the one that should be a leader. And Brainiac just incinerates him. You speak logically, blah, blah, blah. Fair. We don't need two Luthors.
Yeah.
Right.
Farewell.
Love that.
Then you see everyone looking at the smoldering mass that was him. You get a shot of Brainiac, and then you get Earth 1 Luthor. Good. Okay, boys and girls, here's the plan.
It's such a great moment.
He's like, yeah, he took care of that for me. I don't have to worry about that. All right, let's go. That was a great thing. So then we get to see how they're coping. You're having UN meetings, and you see Harbinger and Pariah. They're like on the news in front of the UN. See, I didn't think that was weird. I thought that was great.
It's great.
It's
it's great. But like I'm saying, no, when I say it, it's so weird. Imagine being a real person and sitting on TV and watching the news and being like, what the?
Just seeing dinosaurs and, spaceships behind them.
But then like watching at the
Exactly.
UN, there's,
Yeah, it's like someone's got to explain this shit, right? Who's going to explain it? And you have Clark Kent on the news too, right? Reporting. Talking about it, which was awesome. So it was cool to see how they cope. And then Brainiac interrupts. Guess what? It ain't over yet. Now we're gonna try to fuck your shit up.
Yes.
So that was great. And you get a little Superman action. So it kind of goes back to the old comic book stories, right? The heroes and the villains fighting each other, right? But it's all of them.
It's crazy.
All of
Utter
them, right?
war.
Yeah, like you said, Warzone, and that's literally what it is, Warzone. And you get a little thing with Wally and Jay, which was a really cool thing because we just lost Barry, right? So now we see Wally and Jay working together. You see that there's the 3 generations of Flash with the 2 not knowing that Barry's gone.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a deal. We see the Metal Men, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
The Metal Men have always been cool. They're underrated as far as I'm concerned. I've always loved the Metal Men. But yeah, and it's big war zone, and people are almost dying and getting hurt, and craziness ensues, right? And then we get the whole treachery of Simon killing Brainiac, pretty much. Like, nope, I'm going to take over this shit, bitches. And Simon was always set up. He was always made to be that, like, has ridiculous power, but is also well, what's the word I was looking for? He's they don't expect him to be that powerful. Why is the word escaping me right now? I'll keep on. My brain keeps wanting to say underrated, but underrated isn't the word I'm talking about. But yeah,
what you mean, yeah.
And but yeah, so then he does. It's like, oh, shit's gonna happen now. So all this is going on, and we know the antimatter cannon blew up, but the antimatter ain't dead. So it's like, what's gonna happen next? But it was a great interlude episode. And again, the one thing that I talked about and Chris has mentioned is the pacing of all these episodes is so great. You go from 2 issues of 2 major heroes dying and the emotion of all of that, and not really beating the bad guy, but at least stopping his current plans. And then it goes into this, which a whole nother thing starts, and people are still coping with what's happening. The Earths are still kind of like there hovering, and then this shit breaks out. So it's paced so well that it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel like this weird, like, wait, why are we doing this now? It fit perfectly with everything that was happening.
Yeah, it's so much is together.
You really felt that the story was trying to pivot, but you were careful not to pivot too much because you knew there were more issues coming. And I really enjoyed the villains making themselves at homes on the Earth, like the terraforming of the cold characters making it ice. I think it was Poison Ivy making terraforming everything into like a jungle and plant. I thought
Yeah.
that was a great touch.
They did that in a microcosm in the Arkham games where the villains took
Yeah.
parts of Arkham and made it their own little
Yes.
biodomes in them.
Yep. Yeah. So I really, it made it more immersive. I think it made it feel more believable that like during this time, like Poison Ivy, she's gonna go take over somewhere. She's gonna turn it into her area. The cold characters are gonna turn it into their, area, so they're comfortable. So I really felt that the writers and the artists did a really good job of and made it good. Like I was impressed by the effort they put into and the amount of work they put into that.
For sure.
Yeah, Lunga, I think the word you were looking for was unsuspecting.
No, it's not that either. It's fucking, my God, why is the word is there? It's at the tip of my fucking tongue. Ah,
It's funny. You'll figure it out. Like, as soon
he's
as
a
we're
red
done with this.
herring.
underestimated.
There we go.
Underestimated. Okay.
That's the word. Yeah, they underestimated his power.
Underestimated. There you go. Yes, that is the word.
Yeah, it was there, and I'm like, why can I not remember this fucking word?
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. But yeah, no. As you were saying about the pacing, it just continues to wow me, especially as like like we're just talking about World War, and as I was reading it, it's just like it's crazy that there's so much going on. So many characters that you see per issue, and like it can just all come together, and it's just like each one doesn't take away anything, it just adds more and more and more into each thing and each issue, and it's just honestly wild how well it's all tied together and cohesive. And so, yeah. But anyway, as we were talking about Simon and what happens to him, well, an issue I'll bring us to issue 10 here that is titled Death at the Dawn of Time. Brainiac comes back in another body, and he just immediately just destroys Simon here. It's just what a
Right
bait
away.
and switch. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm the ruler now. He's like, no, I'm Brainiac. You're dead. And so, anyway, after that happens, we still see the whole struggle among all the heroes and villains continue, and Brainiac and Luthor's up there, kind of like a very similar mindset as like Darkseid is they're like ready to be like, okay, we are ready to take over as soon as, all the forces are wiped out, hoping that they sort of just like subdue each other. But anyway, there's all that battling still happening among the heroes and villains, and then the Spectre appears and tells them all to stop. He's like, okay, we all need to team up together, alright? The Anti-Monitor is still not gone. We need you all to team up so we can, put it into this, because, all this fighting isn't going to get anything done. And that's just going to, make the universe go away. So then from there, he's like, alright, there's 2 places you need to go to. So then half of them, which ends up being the heroes, go to the Dawn of Time, where that is where you find the Anti-Monitor is at. And then the other half go to Oa, to the time where the multiverse was born. And that's where the villains go. And then at this moment, while the heroes are grouping up, ready to go to the Dawn of Time, you then see another like Superman come up, but under the name of Superboy from Earth Prime. And then, so the heroes go one way, villains go the other way. And just before the heroes leave, it is revealed that like Tula died from poisoning that occurred during the last issue while the villains were fighting and taking over.
Emo. That's the name of the villain, Chemo. He would poison everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still funny though that his name's Chemo. Like, yeah. Anyway,
the heroes then go to the Dawn of Time, find the Anti-Monitor, where literally it's just an empty white void. And they see that Pariah is captured. Heroes begin their assault against the Anti-Monitor. Meanwhile, we see the villains then are at Oa as they start the attack, but the lab explodes, leaving just Krona there, who's survived. And then Anti-Monitor then starts to absorb the hero's energies, but the Spectre then appears and, empowered by the energies of all the other different sorcerers or magic users there, and she's trying to subdue the Anti-Monitor. But then Krona then opens a window to the Dawn of Time, and the Anti-Monitor commands him to open the portal to the Dawn of Creation. But the Spectre musters up all the energy he can, all the power he can, and then we just see the universe just explode. And I mean, the best way is literally the final lines of this issue, to where it's literally says, "And from the dawn of creation comes death. It was the end of all that was." And then also just a quick note at the bottom of like throughout this whole issue, there's another like side story going on called the Monitor tapes, and that was just showing different little bits of.
I was gonna mention. I'm like, why have you not mentioned that?
Anyway, that just shows the glimpses of like different parts of like the universes, showing sort of like what's happened, I guess, with other parts that you haven't really seen that much. That was really focused here, and so it was a nice little nod seeing all sorts of other bits that wasn't really acknowledged. To at least have a moment for each of those to kind of show like what kind of happened. But yeah, no, literally when I was reading it, because I read it as like, okay, there's this other side story that's going on here at the bottom. What I did is I read the main story, and then I went back and I read the Monitor tapes all the way through.
See, that would have been a better way to do it. Trying to do it like while you're reading it would definitely threw me off a little bit.
Yeah,
but it definitely did a little bit.
Yeah, it was like you said, the way they did it, they put it at the very bottom of each page.
Yeah,
and it made it like its own. It was like its own comic book inside a comic book at the bottom. It was really cool how they did that. Yeah, and depending on how your brain works, it's sometimes easier just to ignore that and go back and then read that alone.
Yeah.
Than try to absorb everything that's happening at one time. But this issue was cool because they took heroes of one type of power and they all had a role to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had the metal men to be conductors for these time machines that they're creating. You have all the electric based heroes feeding all the power into the metal men to funnel to power these time machines. You have all the magical based heroes all linked together to help the Spectre for what he does at the end of the issue. So yeah, Simon getting his head blown out, by the way. Yeah, that was fucking ridiculous. That was
what a way to
so
begin,
fucking cool.
It's just like,
yeah,
you thought he was, finally, so you thought that finally somebody outsmarted Brainiac, and then it's just like, nope.
Right. You get Captain Marvel. Adam's going to free him. He's like, "Want to hear? I'm just gonna cut off." He's Billy Batson. He's got to cut. He goes, "Don't wiggle. I was told to cut off your gag, but only nobody told me why." And he says, "Shazam!" And one of the last times you see, you can call me Captain Marvel, because they changed that not long after this. A couple years later, they ended up switching it all off to where he's Shazam, not Captain Marvel. But so that was cool. But yeah, you see them making this plan, and each of them having a role to play. And it's not just each of them, but it's like groups of specific types of heroes with specific types of powers that all come together to make this work. And you get Uncle Sam, right? He's making his little speech, little freedom speech, and
love it.
Yeah, that was good.
Villains are calling him corny.
Right.
he's fucking Uncle Sam, man. Of course he's corny.
It made me think of two movies: Independence Day, and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Well, yeah, in the middle of this, we got Tula dying, obviously. Which I felt, even back then, I never thought she was that big of a hero to matter, really.
Yeah.
So I felt like they put so much time on her for some reason. I don't know why. But
I'll be honest.
I guess they had to have someone die.
I just didn't care much for whenever they did all the Atlantis stuff. It's just like,
they tried to make it important.
Like Aquaman's just, for such a long time, like he's just kind of been like, like a laughing stock, and so, I just never really cared for like all those other Aquaman characters. I mean, I've never really cared for Aquaman much to begin with, or like never ever really. So like, I just didn't care about being like, okay, this character dies. Okay, I don't care.
Well, I think
So they're all fighting the
also-
Anti-Monitor, which was really cool. And then we get to the very end where the Anti-Monitor's goal, you see what it is. It's for him to put his hand to be seen as that what Chrono sees. And they have to stop him do it. And this is one of the best lines too in the whole series. Spectre just appears, and then Anti-Monitor's like, I feel a force resisting me. Who dares? I
Right.
dare, cruel one,
Yes.
and I will stop you. He just grabs his hand. And he's gigantic, right? You're like,
Right?
oh,
Yeah.
yes. You know, he pulls his hand down. And then because Krona sees no hand, everything shatters, right? In the world now, it's like, whoa, what's going to happen now? The world is supposed to be created. The universe is supposed to be created, but is there no multiverse? Is what's happening because he didn't see any hand. So that changes everything, and now we're left to see, you know, what the results are. And again, of course, we do have the monitor tapes at the bottom, which is cool. It's like Lila telling the whole story of everything that's happened up until this point, kind of recording it for posterity, because who knows what's going to happen after this, right?
Yeah.
Memories could be lost, everything could change. So she's kind of recording it for posterity.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool issue. You could definitely feel it not ending, right? Because they greatly pull off the unlike which bothered me in Guardians, where it's like the fake out deaths. It's like you think someone's gonna die and they keep coming back. They keep coming back. They don't die. In this, they successfully think the Anti-Monitor is beaten, but he doesn't. He just keeps. And then when we get to the final conclusion, it's like perfect, because he's like, he keeps coming fucking back. And then if like this ends now, finally, when we get to the end. Yeah, they did it really good. You could feel it coming to a close, but at the same time, you know it's not over yet.
Right. Yeah. I just, that ending for this one just really stuck with me, you know, just like, especially that moment of like, well, you know, like what's next, but just those words, as I had said earlier in the recap, it's just like, you know, and then now you have from the dawn of creation comes death, you know, it's the end of all that was. Just that whole just confrontation.
Right.
Just,
and what's going to happen to all the heroes that there's more of, you know, Earth 1 and Earth 2. There's multiple Wonder Woman, multiple Superman, you know what's going to happen.
Right.
It's all of them.
Exactly.
I think the art for this one really stood out because of Lunga. You brought up all the different characters having their roles. So when they showed that in the art, it was really cool. Like all the magic users together, all the electric users together. That was definitely something that stood out to me.
Yeah, the overhead shot of Wally and Jay on the treadmills.
Oh yeah,
it was great. Yeah, and then also just everything at the dawn of creation too.
Yeah,
you know, just literally.
Well, can we appreciate that? Like the metal men are the metal men, right? Oh, they're different metals. You know, it's like they made what they were. They weaved it in so well as an integral and important part,
right,
of what even gold, because everyone knows gold is the best conductor of all the metals. So it's the most expensive and it's soft, but it's the best conductor. And they had gold be the major conductor for all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just great seeing all those heroes and that battle just at the end. That's just one of those things that stick out for me, like throughout this whole series, is the whole dawn of creation and that confrontation, and then, you know, Spectre coming out and all that. So much great stuff.
It felt like an Aragorn moment. You will suffer me when he grabbed the Anti-Monitor's hand.
You will. You will. And then nothingness. But yeah. All right. So, continuing on to issue 11, which is called Aftershock. It begins with this new reborn universe at the dawn of time, where it begins where we see Superman from Earth 2 wakes up and goes to the Daily Planet. Haha. Anyway, to find that he's not the editor-in-chief, where he was
Uncle Clark.
See, what you need to do with that is record as an outtake and then tell people to see what really happened and why I'm laughing at this.
Yeah, there you go.
We find Superman from Earth One there then interject as they then take off and find that nobody on this new reborn Earth remembers the Superman from Earth 2. There's like that interaction where I think it's this cop where he like points at the symbol and he's like, that symbol doesn't look right to me. That's the Superman symbol I know, not that one. But anyway, they then go to Jay Garrick's house and then use the cosmic treadmill to find all that's left is just this dark, endless space, as opposed to, where they would find another Earth, it's just a dark, endless space. And so, and then the Superman from Earth 2, like, he feels as if that dark void is just calling to him. The Superman from Earth 1 then saves him. He's like, no, don't go in there. And so, anyway, we then cut and we see this group of like space heroes. There's like these different characters here. There's like Adam Strange there and several other characters. But anyway, they find Brainiac's ship of where it looks like Brainiac is powered off. But then cut back to Earth to where we then see all the heroes summoned at Titan's Tower to find Harbinger, who reveals the universe has been rebirthed and merged into one. Both Huntress and Dick Grayson from Earth 2, they both share these similar stories as to like what happened, where they just sort of woke up and found that they don't really have a place in this world. Much like with what Superman from Earth 2 happened. But Harbinger then reveals that she got back her Harbinger through this. Lila was able to get back her powers as Harbinger as to where she lost them earlier. Anyway, now she tells about how everything's all reborn into like one world. All the times are together now, and there's only one main Batman of the world, one Superman of the world. And then Superman of Earth 2 is like enraged that he just like lost his love, Lois, knowing that he's not the Superman of this Earth and nobody that he knows is really there. And so he goes off and the main Superman then follows him. And then we then see a cut to see that the Spectre is now in like this sleeping state. And then we go to Salem, and then we see all these magic users working together to fight off all these shadows that started attacking. We then see Amethyst, who then gets infected from the shadows, and then Dr. Fate takes her to her gem world. We also get little quick part swings of both the Supermen talking to each other. That I've really liked that. Like, it was really short, but it was a great little combo in between the two. And the main Superman from Earth 1 just talking to the Superman of Earth 2, being like, there's still, you can still contribute to this, you can still be of help to this, don't end yourself quite yet. And so and then after that, we also see that both the Wonder Womans meet too. Finding that she doesn't really belong here either. We also find that, Batman, world's greatest detective, he went to go interrogate Lex Luthor and finds that, well, none of the villains remembered them helping, teaming up together since they weren't at the dawn of creation. And so the villains have no memory of working with the heroes. And then we see now that the antimatter force that is now all over Earth then transport the Earth now into the Anti-Monitors universe. And that sets up the grand finale.
This issue was heartbreaking in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
True.
we do all this stuff. We're heroes, right? We do what we need to do. And they did it without thinking or caring of the consequences, but then they have to cope with the consequences once it's over. Like it's almost like death would have been easier if we died fighting. Instead, we come back. There's only one Earth. I don't exist, or there's a version of me that's already here, but my the original Superman, his Lois is not there. Huntress, that scene with Huntress and Robin was so heartbreaking. She's like, I don't
Right.
exist.
Right. Yeah.
And Robin's like, yeah, the only Dick Grayson I found is a 19-year-old. It's like it was here, and it's like they don't exist, and they don't know, how are we supposed to deal with this? And it's not just a couple; it's a bunch of people. All the Earth X, Uncle Sam, and all his people. And everything is, there's just so many of them that like they're out of place. What we fought to save the universes, and we erased ours, and we're here. What are we supposed to do now? So that was heartbreaking, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, and it's like you can't make an omelet without cracking some eggs, right? That's what they're saying here, and it's like. Like, if they wanted to be a regular comic book, they could have just said, oh, all these old versions of heroes, they all died fighting valiantly. No, they make them live and then have to deal with this.
Right.
That's just so fucked up.
Right.
But it's great storytelling, man. That is some great fucking storytelling. And then we see the Anti-Monitor ain't fucking done.
No.
Imagine being Jay Garrick and you remembering everything and your wife doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, and let's also mention, Wally mentions how we still have to find Barry. We don't know where Barry's at.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't know what's going on with Barry.
What happened to Barry?
They still don't know.
Just that he disappeared. That's all they know.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, again, the whole thing of Barry Allen died a hero with the possibility of no one ever knowing it, which is what a hero does. A hero doesn't do it for accolades or people remembering. Right.
Yeah. I feel like it's such a great way of how it opens up to introduce this new reborn Earth, because you're following, the Earth 2 Superman. He goes to the Daily Planet and then realizes, this isn't my Earth, because it almost makes it feel normal, and then it's not all of a sudden. And like I said, that whole interaction, I love the interaction where that cop being like, that I know your emblem, I don't know this Superman's emblem. I don't know why there's two of you, but you look weird.
And old.
Right. Yeah. I just love seeing like both those Supermen together, and like especially in this issue. And it's great. Just seeing like the contrast between the two, and really just helping that this new primary Superman now, just helping the old one, is great. Ultimately, just sets up the big double-sized-ish finale.
Yeah. Another one of those.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one, but of course, it's a big one, and it's the last part of this maxi series, as they call it. So,
So,
that final panel though in issue 11 though. That
I believe, and these were released each month, so it took a year for this series to conclude.
Yep.
Yeah.
January from 1985 to December.
Yep.
Fit it all into that year.
It says it says issue 11 February 5th 1986.
Yeah, it was a double issue, so it didn't come out the very next month.
Okay. No.
That's why it was January, and then issue 11.
Issue 11 says February.
Yeah, but we had another double-sided issue in the middle too.
So yeah,
The
so it would have
Supergirl
been 14 issues technically, right? Yeah, okay. Got you. So so it went to March. No.
Yeah.
April.
It took them 2 months to do those double-sided issues.
Okay. Oh, I see. So did they not release them until 2 months, or they just did half and half?
I believe there was a wait. You had to wait
2 months for the issue. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof.
I'd have to look at the dates on the covers of all of them again, but I believe
Yeah,
that was
that's true.
what happened.
That's a good point.
But anyway, we're now at this finale of issue 12, which is called Final Crisis. And so with this one, for this epic finale, we then see Brainiac. He then wakes up to find these, the group of space heroes, where the heroes then here beg him to help the heroes stop the Anti-Monitor. But he's like, you know what? I know of somebody else that could help with this. So he's like, I'll take you to him. And then we go back and we see back to Earth, to where we then see that like the Anti-Monitor just makes the Earth just like dark, and then you then see the skies of it being like all pink now, and then the shadows are just now, just swarms of them are unleashed now across the entire planet now. And so now heroes literally everywhere across the whole planet is just struggling, dealing with all these shadows. And then a select group of heroes then figure out how to penetrate the Anti-Monitor's barrier so they can leave to go confront him. And so then Brainiac's ship, and then we then cut to see Brainiac's ship, where it then arrives at Apocalypse to get the aid to get Darkseid to help. And now go back to Earth, and we still see the heroes just been completely swarmed with enemies, and swarms is just the shadows, and you see heroes die here from these shadows. And while all this is going on, you see magic users at Salem are all gathered preparing some sort of big spell. The heroes then arrive at where the antimatter cannon once stood. You then see one final image of the Flash is shown, and then Wally rushes off to find Psycho Pirate holding the remains of Flash's costume. He's just sort of like, and you just see him in the state of that he's in denial that he's gone. He's like, you promised me that you'd get me out of here. How could you just leave me here? And so, and that's when they learn that, that Barry is no more. And so, and you also see that, he's also has that ring, to where then that's also given off to Wally at this point too. And then we then see the Anti-Monitor that then appears, and now then this huge epic final showdown begins. The heroes on Earth are still fighting against all the shadows. More heroes are dying. And then all of a sudden you then see there's this big like magic, like huge like cage that then is able to cage all the shadows. That's what the spell that was being worked on was. And then the heroes are then able to exploit the Monitor's weakness, to where then they get into the state of where they're able to like crack his armor, but that just subdues him for a little bit. But while he is subdued, there's this big portal that opens up to help bring back Earth to its own universe. Portal from, as we were talking about earlier, of Alexander Luthor, is how he literally has this crazy power. Anyway,
Pocket Dimension Belly.
Right, Pocket Dimension Belly. Like the portal is literally like a huge version of him, like just standing out. But anyway, they're just able to pull back in Earth, and then the Anti-Monitor wakes back up, and we then see like the Superman of Earth 2 and Superboy just stay behind with Alexander Luthor to help try to keep the Anti-Monitor at bay. They were able to successfully destroy his armor, and then that's where you just see like another form is like pure evil energy, like in a humanoid version or itself, embodied and all that. Anyway, Darkseid then arrives and uses his power via Alexander Luthor to weaken the Anti-Monitor, to where he's in there's this giant like fireball spirit. And then Superman of Earth 2 then rushes in and is able to just give him the killing blow, to where it then results to the Antimatter universe getting destroyed. And while they're there, Alexander Luthor, Superman, Earth 2, and Superboy are there as the universe is being destroyed. Alexander Luthor then opens up the portal to that infinite darkness that we were talking about last issue, to where they can finally go there and be at peace. But whenever he opens up that portal, there's also that moment where Lois stands out too. So you have this great reunion in between Superman of Earth 2 with his Lois, and so they're able to go into the darkness and accept their eternal peace. And then there's sort of just bits of epilogue here, to where we then find out that Wonder Woman didn't die from the Anti-Monitor's blast, because as they were being confronted, something I forgot to mention is you saw like one of the Anti-Monitor's blasts just completely obliterate Wonder Woman, but turns out that she didn't die. She just got turned back into a mound of clay. And then we now see that the Wonder Woman of Earth 2 now has a place in Olympus, and then also it's revealed that all the losses from all the shadows can't be done, such as you see like the Robins, Huntress, and Cole, they all died. And you also see that now Wally West inherits the Flash's suit, taking the mantle of the Flash. And he's the Flash for, however many years until Barry finally comes back. And then, the main thing that they actually call the epilogue, that's where you see Psycho Pirate there, just it's like
this
so
my
powerful.
God.
It's so powerful because he's like, you see him in Arkham there, and he's just muttering about what he saw, and everyone's just calling him crazy. It's
right.
You're right,
because he remembers all of it.
Right.
There's only a few heroes that had a memory from being there, but yeah, he remembers all of it, and everyone
knows all of it.
You're nuts.
And remembers the emotions and feels all the emotions that everyone felt. And yeah.
Right. Yes. And so, yeah, it's what a big ending to this. And like what, as you were saying earlier, like what a big ending to this just whole series. Like just the feels at the very end there being just like, wow. And this whole final issue just completely delivers. It's like you really see the Anti-Monitor on his last leg. He's ready to completely consume the
last leg. He had 3 forms, bro. He had 3 forms. Ooh, this
You're right. But
are you done, Spencer?
It's just all the shadows. Like you see so many heroes die. Like.
Yep.
Sure, they aren't like massive characters overall, but like,
and it's supposed to be over.
Die. There's just you just see death after death after death as you realize, the heroes are like getting screwed here. You're really feeling the stakes of the whole situation, and then just it all comes together great, and then that whole final showdown is what a showdown, and I love the whole ending to that older Superman, being reunited with Lois and then brought to peace. Just so much great stuff all together there.
And there's a little weirdness there, but we'll get into that in a moment. But this, I mean, the way they open this, right? It's the sky suddenly turns black, right?
Yes.
And they're like, what the fuck is going on? And when you see it break, and the way it goes, it's black, immutable. Then comes the light, piercing, blinding, crackling. The darkness spreads like something living until all who numbly watch in horror come to understand that darkness is alive. Right. The panic that spread over the entire planet at that moment when that sky went from pitch black to all these shadow creatures flying down, and they showed it on each of these panels, right? It's just hysteria. People are just losing their minds. You could imagine the screaming, the terror that was just happening across the fucking planet. All the heroes now scrambling to try to like stop this, right? And we see Hawk and Dove. We see his brother, and calls brother Don Hall dies, and that's where they bring in the new Dove later, the girl version of Dove. So we see he dies. We know that all the other ones that some of the Golden Age heroes, the Huntress and this and that, they all pass away during this fight as well. We see the occult people trying to do stuff again to try to help, and then they get to bring Darkseid in, got to bring in the big guns, right? But yeah, but you would think it's over, right? And then the way they did this issue, this is next to the Barry Allen issue. This is my like other favorite one. It's like you don't expect with them have bring pretty much everything we've seen to see more death at the end, right? It's like, oh, they won, right?
Yeah.
There's gonna be one big battle here, they're gonna win, but no, more people died. You know, and it was like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
But you see in Salem and they're in the Dr. Fate's tower and all the occult people there, which is one of the greatest panels. I love it, where you have Dr. Occult and the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott, sitting over the lantern and his occult symbol and stuff too. That was just so cool to see. And then they get there, and then we get the Wally West scene when they arrive there. Holy shit! The no. And he loses his shit, starts to beat up Psycho Pirate again. You know, he's been his ass kicked already a bunch of times.
So great.
And yeah, he and all the stuff you mentioned that he said was just so. It's like they took that issue. It's like, okay, I'm recovering from Barry dying, and then bam, they do this, and Wally brings me right back into my feels again with Wally. And I was like, motherfucker. And we see that gigantic antimatter, and we get back to fucking Atlantis again. The like you're right, Spencer. The Atlantis thing in this, I did not give a shit. It's like, why are we even here?
Hardly shown, no emotional connection to it at all.
And it doesn't seem like they played even an important role.
No.
It just showed us what's, they didn't contribute anything. Really, it's like, well, there's no water in space, so I guess this is what they're going to be dealing with. I don't know. But yeah, so then we see more deaths happening, and they're engaging, and they have this big fight with the Anti-Monitor, and yeah, you see this is where they really give us the whole Superman is the core of the DC universe, right? He's the heart of the whole DC universe, and what better way than take these two Supermen that they're retiring in this new continuity, the Golden Age Superman and Superboy, because Superboy doesn't exist in this one. He doesn't become Superman until he's Clark Kent in this new continuity, and have these two Supermen, Superman and Superboy, be the ones that finish this,
right? That
end this. And yes, I mean, they all contributed to beating him up, and he was injured a bunch of time, but like I said, he had multiple forms, right?
You're right.
They think they beat him, comes back in a second form where it's without the body, or without this armor, and it's just his glowing body, and they think they defeat that. And then he comes back as this flying fucking head.
Right.
Okay. Before that, he's screaming, die, die, die. Cause he's so pissed. Like, why won't you fucking die? He's the Anti-Monitor. Why won't these bitches die? And it can also, let's also point out that with the two Supermen, we also had Alexander Luthor there. Mm-hmm. They were the last three, which is, again, it's just a weird dichotomy. It's so cool though to see that, because he's supposed to be this Luthor version of what Superman, what if Luthor was Superman, what he would be, in this kind of place. Because if you really think about Lex Luthor, yes, he's a bad guy, but they've always tried to make him be, he cares about humanity, but he's xenophobic. He doesn't like aliens. Yep. So, but his thing is about protecting Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so there is an ember of goodness inside him somewhere. It's just clouded by all his, I'm the only one that could do this, and all I care about is Earth and this.
Narcissism has a little bit to do with it too.
That
hero complex, and all that.
Then we get to the ultimate scene, and he got in big red font. He's Superman. I will not die until you die with me. And the Golden Age Superman is done. He's done. I have had enough. He literally explodes him with one fucking punch. And just disintegrates what's left of the Anti-Monitor, which is, again, point, because it's just fitting. It's like, this is Superman. It's the Golden Age Superman. He's what started it all. He's the guy. So they have him just boom. And then we get the whole beautiful scene of Lois isn't dead. Alexander had her inside of him. And so he's like, hey, I made this paradise pocket dimension inside my belly. and you, Lois, and Superboy can all just live inside me, all happy. Which is funny because that sets up Infinite Crisis, because Superboy's like, you call that happy? You had Lois. Who did I have? I didn't know you're me, old. You know, I'm young. I never got to live a life. And that's why he loses his shit in Infinite Crisis and becomes the BBG in Infinite Crisis.
Yep.
The Wonder Woman thing was cool. It kind of is a circle of life thing. She becomes the clay that forms Paradise Island. And her spirit goes up to Olympus, and Steve Trevor's there because it says she's with her Earthborn husband, Olympus, so he's there with her. Yeah, and then we see the epilogue. We see all the people coping with the deaths and everything that happened around them. Funeral for Don Hall, and the new Wildcat scene at the Golden Age. Green Arrow's dead, and Wildcat and Hawkman are wounded, and all that other stuff. And they had this whole thing with Superman and Power Girl, because the whole Power Girl thing was weird because she's from Earth 2.
Oh yeah,
and she was still there. And at this time, she was Kryptonian. On Earth 2, she was what Supergirl would have been. But she was Power Girl. But then they kept changing. Then they made her a Daxamite.
She wasn't Kara, was she? She was someone else. Like some other name. They mentioned it once.
Right. But they've changed her background so many times that she was Kryptonian, then she was Daxamite, then she wasn't either, and then she was, and they made her, So her whole history's been very confusing. And then we get the crowning of Wally West as the new Flash for this new continuity. And I like how they have Harbinger, on this peak of this ice mountain, holding the data recorder, and they all coats on Lady Quark and Pariah, because there were these new characters kind of created for this, and they're left to be the recorders of history, if you will, of everything that's happened. Then you got the whole Mufasa monitor in the sky.
Remember.
I love
and then that great
right
the monitor in the sky.
It is great.
Mufasa. And then the great closing page, man, with the Psycho Pirate losing his shit, remembering everything that happened, and no one believing him. And again, it starts out. Remember, the first couple pages of the first issue start out with him in the lunatic asylum, and then pulling him out of there. And now he's back in there, having to remember everything that fucking happened, and his role in it, and all the billions of lives that died. And that was ridiculous, but it was so cool. And then we move into the new continuity of DC Universe.
Yeah. That's what a way to do it, It's the biggest comic event of all time, and nothing has ever come close to this, But yeah. Closing thoughts for me, Chris?
We've basically said it all. I don't think there's much more to say, because we keep praising everything about it. I guess one question I would have.
Well, I mean, we slammed them for the Atlanteans. That was
okay. Besides the Atlanteans, what's one criticism we have possibly?
Oh, I mentioned Lady Quark. I didn't really care about her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think it would have been. I think more. Again, I know why they had her in there, but I think they would have been better being a character that you cared more about. For that, because again, you needed that character who was there resenting Pariah the whole time, for sure, to make him feel even worse. I think we've pretty much, the artwork's amazing.
They go on with those guys. Yeah.
That it was drawn and written.
To me, Georgie Perez's artwork in there was one of the best artwork I've seen in comic book.
For sure.
That consistency to a series like that, huge series, so many pages. And Jerry Ordway did art for it as well, on a few of them as well. But those two together did some amazing art in that stuff. And it was I haven't seen. I really don't. I mean, again, yeah, there's some panels where there's so many things that they're kind of like drawn very minimalistically because there's so many heroes on the screen or on the page, fighting something. So you only could draw so much detail when there's that many heroes on the page. But yeah, overall the art was tremendous.
I think you used the key word. It was consistent. You read a lot of comics where you go from panel to panel and the characters are drawn differently in each panel. Sometimes just maybe it's because of laziness or some sort of weird thing that the artist is trying to do. But no, I appreciate, you're right, for such a arduous task, shall we say, of drawing this, like the consistency was just spot on. As
far as the dates, I did look it up.
It was a year.
The first issue was April.
Yeah,
April 85. Yeah, until March 86.
Okay. Yep,
it was every month. Yeah.
So, but no, that I think that consistency is it makes the reading experience less distracting because you have that consistency. You don't focus on anything that's different. It's not one of those games of what's different on this picture that's on this picture. They're the same picture, but they're different. So I think Lunga, that word fits perfect. Consistency.
Continuity. I love all the artwork. Like Perez is one of my favorite comic artists. Absolutely broke my heart when he passed away. And this is
he did a tremendous cover for the Infinity Gauntlet.
I was about to say the other main story that I associate him with is Infinity Gauntlet. Like that story holds a huge place in my heart. Because that is the comic.
I had a
Infinity Gauntlet
limited numbered signed copy with the gold marker of Infinity Gauntlet. George Perez signed, but I got that when I was right when it came out, and when I was married to my ex-wife, we were going through some financial problems. I had to sell all my collection. I got like pennies on a dollar for this shit, and that was one of the things that had to go. So I don't have that anymore. But yeah.
Infinity Gauntlet holds such a special place in my heart because that's like the first like main comic I really read that really, got me into, I guess, like where I'm at now, with all this other sorts of, being in all these comics. And so, very special story to me. But yeah, George Perez, he was absolutely amazing.
And if you notice,
oh yes,
when you think about Infinity Gauntlet, and remember when that throne of that floating platform of death, the gray stone thing that they all went to when they were trying to fight Thanos, it looked just like Quark because it's George Perez, so he's going to draw some stuff the same. So he brought that over there. It's the same thing with fucking Apocalypse and Darkseid. It's literally the same thing. The same artist brought it over.
Yeah. What I sort of like thought as like the same is, you remember the end of issue 11 in this, to where you see the anti-monitor, so like up in the sky, like part of like the universe. It's like Perez did the same thing for Thanos in Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we talked about the consistency, Chris. He kept it consistent.
There you go. Lunga, did you ever watch the CW Crisis?
Yes,
you actually
and I was sorely disappointed. Like, because like the Flash in there, they had the '90s Flash. Alan was John Wesley Shipp, and I liked it. I loved that show when it was on. I mean, when you look back now, you're like, oh, the effects, but it was the fucking '90s,
Yeah, exactly.
But for what they had, that was pretty good. You know what I mean? For the technology they had in the '90s, they did really damn good with that show. For TV, it wasn't a movie, a TV show.
Yeah, it only lasted.
So I
like
liked it being him
or something.
Right, but for it to hit the same, it would have had to have been the end of the series.
God, yeah.
And Grant Gustin's Flash be the one.
Yeah.
That's because that's what they teased us with at the very beginning of the whole series, how he disappears and this thing. And when the show first started, I'm like, that's Crisis. That's how they're gonna end the series. And they didn't. I bet you they probably did, but they wanted to stretch it so much, they wanted to keep it going so
Well,
much.
Arrow
people
was
watching
ending
it.
too. It
Yeah.
was Arrow ending, and they made Arrow Spectre,
Right.
and
dumb.
made him
So,
be the one to sacrifice himself. With what they could do and what they had, I mean, it was a fun watch. But
Yeah, but again, it's like I talked about how the emotional impact that issue
Sure.
8 had with Barry's death. Even though I like John Wesley Shipp and I thought, oh, it's him dying, it's so heroic. It was such a small scene because they only did it over what, three episodes, 4 episodes, the whole thing,
5,
right?
5.
Was it
No,
5?
it's
5? Okay, 5.
Yeah, it was 5.
Yeah, but it was like, what was it? It was like 10 minutes of one episode. You know what I mean? And not even 10 minutes. 5 minutes.
No, again, for them, it was Arrow was ending literally
Sure.
a couple of months
But it's
after
the Flash, man.
And so
you diminished what happened in Crisis with Barry by doing
absolutely. But they were
and
told
Supergirl
by
should have
higher
died.
up.
Her show sucked anyway. She died in Crisis. She should have died there.
See, I liked Supergirl's show, but that's a conversation for a
Fuck
different
that show.
That's a conversation for a different time.
I still watched it, but I hate watched it. But
no, you didn't. That's a lie. If
I
you
actually
watched the whole thing,
no,
you did not
no.
hate watch it.
I kept watching it because it was certain. I like Martian Manhunter, but then they kept nerfing him, which pissed me off.
They did nerf him.
Okay?
They had to. You have to though. It's a Supergirl.
But
show.
they even what they did with Supergirl pissed me off because she kept getting beat up all the time. I'm like, she's still a fucking Kryptonian. Why are you making her so fucking weak?
And she's supposed to be more powerful than Kal-El in some aspects. So
I liked what they were doing with Mon-El, and then they let it just. I'm like, motherfucker. I actually liked the actor was good. I actually liked the character, and then they didn't really do anything with him anymore. I'm like, you should have kept Mon-El. They wanted to focus on her sister so much, and I got tired of her.
Did you like what's the actor's name who's the voice of Darth Maul in Rebels?
In Rebels, Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer. Did you remember his? He was a villain in the season.
He was Parasite.
Yeah. No. Was he?
Was it Parasite or Metal? Oh wait.
No, he was the guy with the.
Oh no! He was a Shield.
Patriot.
Yeah. Patriot.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Patriot, was that his name or whatever?
Yeah.
So,
I think. I think he became Shield though in the comic books because I had that comic book.
Yeah. So that was so. I think that
Agent Liberty. That's what it was.
Yeah, Agent Liberty. That's what it was. Thank you. I think the Arrowverse. It was victim to too many rules by the own company.
Well, they all did.
Owned
Man.
them,
Flash is my guy, but I couldn't watch the last 4 seasons. It was so fucking bad.
That last season is so bad. But what I'm trying to connect this back to Crisis. Damn it.
Yeah.
So many rules that WB gave the Arrowverse that things they couldn't do, weren't allowed to do.
You're being kind.
They weren't allowed to have.
You're being kind.
I know I'm being kind. Trying to be
Greg
kind.
Berlanti's fucking version of the fucking DC universe. He has his fucking way he wants to do it, and fuck Greg Berlanti. I'm so glad he's not having anything to do with this new.
Well, but no, but weren't they not allowed?
Originally, he was.
Like,
he was going to do the whole fucking Green Lantern series on HBO Max and all this other
Yes.
shit. I'm like, no, don't bring him there. We're just going to get CW on fucking HBO.
Well, that's the problem. Is yes, everything had to be familyized to an extent because it's CW. I call it Disney-fied, but it's the wrong company.
Right.
And so they had to do that. Now, one
Homogenized.
question I do have, having not read any other Crisis iterations, the Paragon thing, is that actually a thing in one of the versions? No? Okay, that was made just for the show? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Which is
That
dumb.
to me right there was like, that's one of the only aspects I didn't like of watching that, having not read anything at that point yet. Now, after having read it and watching, sure, yes, I would never go back and watch it and be like, oh yeah, this is great. I understand again how they were handcuffed and some of the things, why they did some of the things they did.
If they wanted to do it
looking at it as a business,
they needed to make
side.
the entire season of every show, not just the crossovers episodes. They needed every episode to be it of every show. Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, all of it for the entire seasons of all the shows.
To connect.
Then
in a way,
it would have been a
yes.
better, yes.
Correct.
Then it would have been a better. They
And
could have done more,
They've
but they tried to squeeze it into
crossover
5.
episodes between the.
Yeah,
but you're right. It didn't lead up. The crossover was not a lead up. It was just bam, we're throwing them into it. And that's how they knew how they did all their crossovers. And I mean, hell, technically, yes, there's Superman and Lois and
Right.
The Gotham Knights show. If you watch it as an Elseworld show,
No, I have not even watched it.
If you watch it as an Elseworld show, it's not bad. Think of it just as Elseworlds. Don't think of it anything to do continuity with anything. Just watch it as an Elseworld
What they
show.
did with Batman in that was so bad.
In what? Oh,
Okay.
in Crisis with the Kevin Conroy.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
We
here
get
go.
to see
Spencer,
Kevin Conroy. I'm like,
Yes.
yes, Kevin Conroy.
Spencer,
And
I want you to
what
give
the
your thoughts
fuck?
on this.
They turned him into a fucking bad guy. What the fuck are we doing here? This is ah.
But it fits.
You know,
though.
it's like,
that's
fuck
no,
that.
that's the thing, though. Is it fits because
No, it didn't fit.
It was the Kingdom Come Batman. It is more representative.
Are
of
we
that
doing
Batman.
Kingdom Come or are we doing Crisis? Pick one.
Well, they did the
That's
Kingdom
the-
Come universe in Crisis.
Okay.
Yeah, because they made Golden Age Superman, Kingdom Come Superman instead.
Yeah, but they did the same thing that fucking Zack Snyder fucked up with. He tried to mesh too many things together.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and part of that I think is because they weren't allowed to do the things that would have made Crisis work. So they were like, all right, let's try and mad scientist it. And again, like you said,
I
it
think
didn't
they
work.
still had that rule that they couldn't have actual Batman on it, and that's why they had to have.
I think you're right
Batman.
too. Yeah, they had already gotten over the Superman thing. And you're right though. I think the Batman thing is the main reason, because even in the Gotham Knights show, they don't show Batman at all. They haven't shown him. All they showed him is basically the cowl is all they showed.
Gotham was great until they
Gotham
did
was
last
until
shot.
they made him. Yeah, that Batman shot.
It was so horrible.
But yeah, as the lesson from this, guys, is that if you're gonna make an adaptation, make sure you have access to all the source
Yes.
material.
Exactly. Yeah, but I will
Which
say
we
you
think
are
James
right.
Gunn-
They did handcuff him a lot because there was only.
Yeah.
It's hard to do a Crisis on Infinite Earths with fucking 6 heroes.
Yes.
Okay,
It's true.
I get it. You know, but yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Then you shouldn't have did it. That's all I can say. Then you
Yes.
should have did it. Then.
Agreed.
Even for the
And-
movies, don't try to do it on TV.
And that's the thing. You don't have the budget to superimpose all those characters, like VFX.
Not even a
wise.
budget. You don't have time to introduce them.
That's right too. Absolutely. That's.
I mean, they tried it. They were doing pretty good for a
Now,
while. I was excited on Arrow when they had Ragman. I loved Ragman, and then they really didn't do much.
They got rid of him quick. Yeah.
Yeah. They had Mr. Terrific, which was cool, but they didn't really use him the way they should have. He was great for a little while.
They had
and
the
then they just-
elongated man, and they wrote him.
Well,
out
that was
because
'cause of-
yeah.
yeah.
I know.
cancel
I know.
culture. Fuck that up.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
And they were going to get into the whole Sue Dibney thing and
I
Sue.
know.
There's another storyline
That's Richard
that
Dreyfuss's
was
niece,
another
by the way.
crisis.
That's Richard
Identity
Dreyfuss's niece
crisis.
that plays her, by the way.
Spencer, have you ever read? Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Spencer, did you ever read Identity Crisis?
I have not.
Read Identity Crisis. You want
Isn't-
heart wrenching?
Isn't that the next crisis?
I'm not going to
that
spoil it then.
happens? Isn't that,
I
like, the
it's
next main
not.
one?
Yeah, I think it's the next in the line of things called Crisis. Yes, I believe it was, but it
Yeah.
didn't happen immediately after. It happened in
Right.
mid '90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I won't say then what goes on in there. Just watch it
We'll definitly.
or read it. Sorry,
We'll
watch it.
There we
definitely
go.
be
So,
covering that.
folks, there is your recommendation. After you read Crisis on Infinite Earths, go ahead and read
Oh,
Identity.
wait, no.
Oh,
Before Identity Crisis, I mean, it's not you. They have nothing to do with each other. But
I know.
immediately after this, read. It's a 1-issue thing.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Last Days of the Justice Society of
There
America.
we go.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes. And then
You
go
haven't read that
Identity
either yet,
Crisis.
Spencer?
No, I haven't read that one either. I'm actually
Okay, and
wasn't
then I
really-
won't spoil it. I won't spoil it either.
I
Trust
wasn't-
me.
Don't spoil it.
I was not.
It's an
aware of
epilogue?
That.
Yeah, it's basically an epilogue and a mini sequel to Crisis, just involving the Justice Society.
Nice.
So
Cool.
read it and you'll cry.
And then go read Identity Crisis. There
yes,
we
then read Identity Crisis.
go. All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. Well, I appreciate you all being here talking about such a huge event and took a long time, but you know what? We gave the time needed to talk about, this massive event,
We could have spent more time talking.
We could have very easily spent more time, but you know what? We don't want this to be 24 hours long, so we're going to, keep it at this.
And then Spencer looks at his recording software and he realized none of this recorded. Oh no!
He accidentally hit spacebar and it stopped recording.
God damn it! Time to do it all again. No, anyway, but yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Lunga, where could the people find you?
Right there above my head. Twitter's DNDM Lunga. And YouTube and Twitch is the same at Console6 with the number 6 not spelled out, where we do our D&D streams where these two gentlemen play with us in our D&D campaigns. And there's also D&D lore videos. Right now I'm doing Forgotten Realms lore, a history of Forgotten Realms uploads as well on there for people who are into D&D and TTRPGs.
I gotta say, those are great lore videos. If you're at all a D&D fan at all, definitely go check those out. I really like the way that you do all that, so definitely go check that out. Links to all this stuff will be down below. Thank you all once again for joining me as we talked about this epic of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I'll see you all next time back here on the Dingus Den. Thank you for watching this video. Before you go, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video. See you next time, here on the Dingus Den.